Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive? We're jumping into the world of Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
It's a book that's been on countless bookshelves, sparked endless debates.
You either love it or, well, you love to argue with it.
And that's what makes it so fascinating, right?
Definitely. So, where do we even begin with a book like this?
Well, I think the best place to start is with the core concept, the one that really sets the stage for everything else.
You mean the whole two dads thing?
Exactly. Kiyosaki grows up with these two father figures, one rich, one poor, each with completely opposite views on money. Imagine those dinner table conversations.
Oh, I can only imagine. Talk about a crash course in contrasting financial philosophies.
Right. And it makes you wonder, how much of our own approach to money is shaped by those early influences, often without us even realizing it?
It's like we inherit money habits, good or bad, just like we inherit, well, our eye color or something.
And Rich Dad, Poor Dad really challenges that inherited wisdom, especially the idea that the path to financial security is a straight line: go to school, get good grades, find a stable job.
And Kiyosaki's saying, hold on, what if that's not the whole story?
Exactly.
Yeah.
He uses this really powerful anecdote to drive this point home, the story about this gathering of the wealthiest businessmen back in 1923.
Oh, yeah, I remember that part. These were like the titans of industry at the absolute top of their game. So what happened?
Well, Kiyosaki paints this stark picture. Fast forward 25 years, and many of these incredibly successful entrepreneurs were bankrupt. Some had even taken their own lives.
Wow, talk about a reality check. It really makes you stop and think, right?
It does.
Mm-hmm.
It shows that it's not enough to just make money. You have to understand how to manage it, how to make it work for you.
Yeah.
And that's where the book's central message comes in, understanding the difference between assets and liabilities.
And I love how Kiyosaki breaks it down so simply. It's not about complicated financial jargon. It's about this really clear distinction. Assets put money in your pocket, liabilities take money out.
It's such a simple concept, but so often misunderstood.
Absolutely. It's like we get so caught up in the day-to-day of earning and spending that we don't always stop to think about where our money is actually going.
And whether it's working for us or against us.
Exactly. It's like, are you buying things that are building your wealth or just, well, draining it away?
It's about making conscious choices about your spending and investing so that you're actively building a more secure financial future.
So it's not just about earning a bigger paycheck. It's about creating a stream of income from assets, even if you start small, right?
Absolutely. It's about shifting your mindset from being dependent on a single source of income to building multiple streams of income that can support you over the long term.
And that kind of leads us to, I think, one of the most well-known ideas from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, maybe even a little controversial for some people.
You're talking about the idea of working for money versus, well, having your money work for you.
Yeah, exactly. It's a concept that really seems to resonate with people, but it's also easy to misinterpret, don't you think?
It definitely is. It's not about, quitting your job tomorrow and just hoping for the best. It's not about becoming passive.
Right. It's not about kicking back on a beach somewhere and letting the money roll in, at least not right away,
It's more about taking control. It's about developing your financial literacy.
alongside your career.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Alongside your career, your job, whatever it is you're doing, it's about making sure you're not just constantly trading time for money.
So it's more like creating options for yourself, building that long-term financial freedom we all kind of dream of, right?
Exactly. It's about having choices. And Rich Dad, Poor Dad encourages us to think about, well, our skills.
Our skills, what do you mean?
Like, how can the things you're good at, the things you already know how to do, translate into something that could actually generate income?
Oh, I see what you mean, like turning your skills into assets.
Right. Instead of just thinking, this is my job, this is what I do to earn a paycheck, you start thinking, how can I use this to create something more?
Mm.
Something that could potentially generate income even when I'm not actively working at it.
I like that. So any examples come to mind from the book?
Oh, absolutely. Kiyosaki uses this great story from his own life to kind of illustrate this point. His educated dad, he really wanted to follow a traditional path, go to college, get a secure job, all that.
Good advice.
Right, exactly. But Kiyosaki, he decides to do something completely different. He goes to work on ships.
On ships. That doesn't sound very glamorous.
Well, it wasn't about the glamour. He saw it as an investment in his education, his financial education.
Because he was learning about international trade while working on the ships.
Exactly. He was gaining this incredibly valuable knowledge, this real-world experience that he knew could open up opportunities down the road.
And did it.
Well, I think it's safe to say that his understanding of global commerce definitely played a role in his success. But, the point is, it might have seemed like an unusual choice at the time, maybe even a little risky.
But he saw the bigger picture.
Exactly. He saw the potential. And that's a great takeaway for anyone listening, right? It's about challenging yourself to think differently about what you do and how it could potentially lead to something more.
I love that. It's about thinking outside the traditional job box.
Absolutely. Think about your own career, your own skills for a second. What are you good at? What do you enjoy doing? Are there any hidden talents there that you could potentially leverage to generate income? Maybe even outside of your 9 to 5.
Okay, so like what? Give me an example.
Sure. Let's say you're an amazing writer, right? Maybe you've always loved writing. You're great with words. Well, have you ever considered freelance writing? Or even writing and self-publishing an ebook? There are so many possibilities these days.
Or maybe you're a whiz at graphic design. Could you create and sell digital products online?
Exactly. Or maybe you're a social media guru. Could you offer consulting services to businesses that are struggling to build their online presence?
So many possibilities. I love it. But let's be real, Rich Dad Poor Dad isn't all about, strategies and numbers and side hustles.
Right. It also dives into well, I guess you could call it the human side of money.
The mental and emotional barriers that can really hold us back.
Exactly. Because it's one thing to have all the financial knowledge in the world, but if you're constantly battling fear or self-doubt, well, it's going to be tough to actually put that knowledge into action.
So true. It's like our own worst enemy can be, well, ourselves sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. And one of the biggest things Rich Dad, Poor Dad really hammers home is this: our fear of failing.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. Fear can be paralyzing. It can keep you from even trying.
Absolutely. But the thing is, failure is just, well, it's part of the process, isn't it?
Definitely. Even Kiyosaki talks about his own setbacks, his own failures along the way. Nobody just magically becomes a financial whiz overnight.
Exactly. And I love the analogy he used in the book. He talks about Texas and the Alamo.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Right. Like, the Alamo fell. It was a defeat, a tragedy even. But it became this rallying cry, a symbol of resilience.
Instead of letting it be the end of the story.
Exactly. And that's what Rich Dad Poor Dad encourages us to do, too, to look at those setbacks, those inevitable failures we all face, and use them as fuel.
To learn from the experience, come back stronger, more determined.
Right. It's not about letting those item wants dictate all your choices.
You mean like, I don't want to deal with the hassle of tenants, so I won't invest in real estate kind of thing?
Exactly. Or I don't want to risk money in the stock market, so I'll just, I don't know, hide it under my mattress.
But Kiyosaki would argue that by avoiding those uncomfortable things, you might actually be closing yourself off to huge opportunities.
Absolutely. And, sometimes it's not even these big dramatic failures that hold us back. It's the everyday things, the little doubts we let creep in.
So how do we overcome those? How do we shift our mindset?
Well, Rich Dad Poor Dad really emphasizes the importance of finding mentors, people who are already financially successful.
Oh, like finding your own personal rich dad?
Exactly. It's like, think about it. You wouldn't try to become a professional athlete without a coach, would you?
True.
Same principle applies here. Find those mentors, those rich dads in your life, people who can offer guidance and support. Learn from their experiences. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
And never stop learning, right?
Absolutely. Rich Dad, Poor Dad makes it clear financial education, it's not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing process.
And there's always something new to learn. I think that's what I love most about the book. It's really empowering. It doesn't just tell you what to do. It gives you the tools to figure it out for yourself.
Exactly. It encourages you to be proactive, to take control of your own financial well-being.
To write your own financial story.
Exactly. And speaking of tools, we can't forget one of the most popular ones from the book, The Cash Flow Quadrant.
Oh, yeah, the quadrant. So how does that work again?
Basically, it breaks down the different ways people generate income into 4 categories, right? You got your employees, your self-employed, your business owners, and then your investors.
And it's not about saying one is better than the other.
No, not at all. It's more about understanding the characteristics of each one,
Okay.
how they align with your own goals, your risk tolerance, all of that.
So, for example, someone who really values security, they might thrive in an employee role, right?
Yeah.
But someone who's more entrepreneurial maybe craves more freedom and control. They might be drawn to, I don't know, starting a business or investing.
Exactly. It's all about figuring out where you are now and, more importantly, where you want to be in the future,
Mm-hmm.
and using the quadrant as a framework for getting there.
It's like having a roadmap. You get to choose your own destination, your own path to financial freedom. So as we wrap things up here, any final thoughts on Rich Dad, Poor Dad? What would you say to our listeners?
Well, I'd say go into it with an open mind. Be ready to challenge some of your assumptions about money and wealth building.
Because it's not about get-rich-quick schemes.
No, definitely not. It's about shifting your mindset, developing your financial literacy, and taking control of your financial future.
And it all starts with that simple but powerful question that Kiyosaki leaves us with, right?
You got it. He asks, if money is only an idea, and it really is at its core, isn't it?
It's true. Money is just a tool.
Exactly. It's a tool. So he asks, if money is only an idea, what shifts in your thinking and how you view money and wealth might help you achieve greater financial well-being?
It's a question worth pondering. So that's it for our deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad. What a journey. Don't forget to check out the show notes for links to resources mentioned in this episode, and be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss our next deep dive.